Hello everyone and welcome back to the next video. As I've promised yesterday, it will be the second part of the tier list for white of all the gambits possible. Yesterday we've covered all the gambits after 1 e4 e5 because there were so many of them. Today in this video we will focus on all the others after 1 e4 not 1 e5 and after d4 and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's go back to our playlist because there are few things to talk about. So guys, this is where we finished yesterday. We covered all the gambits after 1 e4, 1 e5. As you can tell, as of now, we are entering the territory of the other options, and the first on the list is the Smith-Morra gambit. How is it played? Let's see. We start with e4, opponent replies with c5, and now we go with the d4 pawn. Without playing knight f3, without playing c3, trying to prepare this move, we go for the d4 straight away. The point being that we would like to, after cd4, sacrifice yet another pawn because we would like to open the c and d files and get some activity and space advantage. This is quite an aggressive approach and it will for sure make the opponent uncomfortable because, for example, if he is a dragon player, dragon variation player, it might be quite hard for him to be on time with this move and that one and then castling if we'll put enough pressure onto the center of the board and all that stuff. So it's great if opponent accept it. If not, then not so great. So that's my thinking here, and if that's the case, I will put it as the maybe still real opening. I'm not sure if I did it correctly. Maybe surprise weapon should be placed higher, but Smith-Morra Gambit, let's put it as the real opening. Maybe objectively a little bit higher than the King's Gambit, but yeah, I'm not the fan of it. I'm more of a fan of the Wing Gambit, and Wing Gambit is played with b4. And in here it might be a little bit premature to play it because, okay, what's the point? The point is obviously that you want to give away the b-pawn so that you can build the strong center because the c-pawn is no longer fighting for it, right? So that's more or less the idea. The exact execution of the Wing Gambit depends on you. You can, for example, play knight f3 and wait for the opponent's reply, and depending on what does he play, choose to play b4 or just play b4 as a pre-move, not caring about what the opponent does. Because I believe that after e6, b4 works quite well with the same approach. After knight c6, it's also fine. Additional option for the opponent would be to take with the knight, but then we are able to get few tempos on it and still build the center. So overall, if you are a big initiative player, you like to put the pressure to the opponents and put them in uncomfortable spots, b4 family, Wing Gambit family is the one for you. Also, you can try to think about a3 move with the hopes of playing b4, because for example in here there is also a possibility of achieving exactly this variation, right? So all in all, I would say that as a surprise weapon it works amazingly, and not only that, it can be included as your usual go-to for the long period of time, because until your opponents will know what to do against it, they might have to put a lot of work into it. So yeah, overall, practically I am more of a fan of the Wing Gambit, but in terms of our tier list, it will go a little bit lower than that, I would say, because I will put it as the surprise weapon, but myself, I rate it quite highly. Okay, going further, because there are not so many other gambits in the Sicilian defense for white, we are going into the Tennison gambit. To be honest, that's the first time I have ever heard about it. And funny enough, it's not the worst one in the world, because in here, facing Scandinavian, or we can also start with the ready opening. In here we play e4, in here we play knight f3. And one may ask, what's that about? We are losing the central pawn, right? Yeah, but knight g5. And you may ask, okay, what's that about? We are not only losing a pawn, but wasting some tempos. What's going on? Well, the general idea of this gambit is that after knight f6 we can try to play d3, and the point is that after ed bishop d3, note that all the moves from black were more or less, let's say, natural. Since the knight is already developed, opponent has to develop few more pieces, but he might be unsure what to do with the pieces now. Maybe he will find the idea of kicking away the knight, because after h6, knight going back, there is a very nice square for the bishop, allowing the pawn to be pushed, allowing the bishop to be developed and castling, all that good stuff. And then you got it. You have the gambit working for you, because after h6 you have knight f7 with the fork taking the pawn, and most importantly after king f7 there is bishop g6 and discovered attack. So normally I don't like such tricks because there are only one tricks and overall it's bad gambit, but since it's the one that I have never seen before and it's quite nicely set up, I would say, like practically, you are playing good moves, opponent is too, like all in all, I will not put it like nothing to offer, because there is a trick I like, and for sure it's much better than Jerome in my eyes, so I will put it that way. Nakmason might be just a little bit too high for it, but yeah, I think that this gambit has something to offer. You might consider it like once in a blue moon, let's say. Okay, going further into the Orthoschnapp gambit, once more, yet another one that I didn't really know, and I don't really like, because it's against the French, and the way to do it is to play c4 and then queen b3, with the idea of, if opponent accepts the pawn, you play bishop c4 and you are hitting those two pawns. The same stuff had happened in the Evans gambit, for example, right? And I believe that in the few more, also at least one that we will be getting in the future. But the point is that, okay, it will be a surprise for sure. It was a surprise to me, but where's the trick? Like, even at the like 600 rating bracket on chess.com, opponents will know that, okay, there is the attack, they have to protect it, and they will play a move like this, because this is 600 rating chess, right? Placing the queen in front of the bishop. But in here it's the best objectively move. Yeah, so it does not offer you any upside on the lower stages of the game. On the higher, I'm not even getting into it. So I would say that overall, we have the winner, meaning that we have finally the gambit that, in my eyes, has really nothing to offer. Simply nothing. So don't do it, guys. There are plenty more and better ways to play against the French. One of which, actually, I will show you, even though it's not on the list, because there is the advanced variation that I've covered in the opening section, opening video. But when researching for the Gambits video, I saw that in here, this is the variation called Milner-Barry Gambit. And in basically every video on YouTube, you have it included. But I didn't, since it's one of the top moves, top lines, main lines. And this is the Gambit, in a sense that, okay, you are gambiting the pawn on d4. But if the Gambit is accepted, you basically win a queen. So is it really a Gambit? I mean, it didn't seem so to me, therefore I want to omit it. But my point is that there are plenty of more options better than Orthoschnapp gambit against the French. That was my point. All right, so going back to the list, as you can tell, next up on it is the Alien Gambit. Alien Gambit is the gambit obtained in the Caro-Kann against the Caro-Kann. It's growing in popularity lately, so if you go on YouTube and search for the tier list of openings, you will get mostly videos from 3 to 4 years ago. If you look up the Alien Gambit, it's much more fresh, let's say. Maybe because the variation that it is being played in also grew in popularity recently, because this is the main line of Caro-Kann, and knight f6 variation is having its renaissance basically. Many players of all levels are playing this variation with success, and as a refutation to it, white can play knight g5, similar to the Tennison gambit in a way, because after h6 you will once more try to sacrifice the knight on f7. In the Tennison Gambit, however, you had the possibility of winning the game on the spot with that move. In here is just the beginning of fun for you, because you can play knight f3 and then play here, trying to make use of the, let's say, plenty of weak light squares around the king, but it's not really sustainable, that initiative, to be honest. Simple c5 that we may know from the Cochrane Gambit 2 will do for black. They can then cover the checks from the bishop with a pawn. If the knight attacks, they can go away, perhaps even in both ways. So yeah, overall not the greatest of all, and I would rather avoid it. Once more, Caro-Kann is opening similar to the French, in which without doing much, white can get nice playable positions. It's not that good of an idea to go for the gambits all the time everywhere. So Alien Gambit has to be for sure 2000% below the Cochrane one, and I believe that below the Tennison one too. I'm not sure even what's the trick there. So yeah, once more, I believe this is the category for the Gambit. I just think that it's at least a little bit of fun, and Orthoschnapp is not, so that's why Alien Gambit will be a little bit higher. And next up on the list is the Hillbilly attack, once more similar to the Orthoschnapp this time, so I put the Gambits, similar to one another, let's say, because Hillbilly attack is obtained after bishop c4, d5, bishop b3. What is this? I don't know. I mean, you are basically playing like a total beginner with this move, because you are allowing d5 to be played with a tempo. In here you are allowing your pawn to be taken, only with the hopes of playing there for like what, scholar's mate? I mean, g6 and what? Yeah, this gambit is just so bad. I don't know what else to tell about it. I mean, yeah. Okay, you can go back, opponent protects, you attack. Maybe you will be able to get the pawn and get a playable position like this. But like, is this the dreamland for the Gambit players to achieve that? Not sure. So what I've said 2 minutes ago stays. Against the Caro-Kann, you don't really have to go for such gambits. And Hillbilly will be together with all the other from this family, just between Alien and Orthoschnapp. So out of all of gambits against the Caro-Kann, French and Scandinavian, basically most of them are in the nothing to offer section or single trick section. And you may say that this is the tendency of mine, but I would say that this is the tendency of the positions themselves, meaning that if we are fighting for the light squares, especially if black does that in a, let's say, slow manner, as in the French and Caro-Kann, really there is no way to play a successful gambit, while if we are met with e5 or c5, well, let's go, right? Because we are fighting for the center more and all that stuff. So that's not me. It's not my personal choices. It's just the way the chess are. Okay. Out of the e4 gambits, I have one more prepared, especially for you, that I believe is not covered enough. I found it by pure luck and chance, and I'm really thankful I did, because it's very nice. How is it played? Spielmann Gambit can be played against the Alekhine defense that I recently struggled with a little bit as white, so maybe that's even the way to go for me at my level, because in here e5 is the obvious main line, but you can play knight c3 with the hopes of either getting the e5 move, trying to go into the e4 e5 family, for example into the Halloween Gambit, right? And then maybe d6, hoping to get some Pierce defenses or Philidor defenses and all that stuff. And after d5, you are entering some of kind of the Scandinavian, which you as white might be still happy about. But you don't have to take on d5 as in the Scandinavian. You can push the pawn now, because in Scandinavian it's a no-go because there is no knight there. In here there is. And if the knight goes away normally to d7, you can play e6. And that's quite a powerful option in plenty of openings. For example, Caro-Kann that we've mentioned. Because the point is that we want to give away the pawn for the weakening of the king, for weakening of the pawns on the king side, and practically it should be fine. I mean, objectively it's even fine. Computer says it's at least 0.00. Grandmasters played it, had a great results in this. So I would say that maybe at the bigger depth, it's not objectively possible to get full compensation, but at the lower levels, at the lower depth, at the shorter time controls, I mean, I'm very glad I found this gambit because I might try it myself, and I would recommend to you guys to do basically the same. The point is that we want to take control over the center a little bit, perhaps with the move like this, and then simply try to continue development, and in the future look at the king, look at the e6 weakness, light square weaknesses and all that stuff. So even if black is trying to play like that, trying to, let's say, finish development this way, let's go h4 and have some fun. So yeah, plenty of choices, plenty of possibilities to go sharp. I like this gambit a lot, and just for the fact that it's I would say undervalued and under talked about, let's say, I will put it straight into the real opening. Legendary would be a little bit too much, and let's go for the for here. Oh, okay, let's go here. So that Urusov and Deutz are from one family, let's say, they are cousins, so I'll let them stay together, but I would say practically it offers much more upside than Smith-Morra Gambit. Okay, guys, and as I've said, it's the last one after e4. Was kind of lying to you because there are a few more gambits to consider that can be played with the pawn being pushed from the e-file, but those are just the memes. I believe I got a question in the comment section under the openings for white videos. What about the cow opening? Well, I had two excuses. One was I forgot. Second one was it's called an opening, but it's so bad that it should be considered a gambit. So as of now, let's stick to the second version, right? So it's just as bad that you really cannot consider it as the good opening. And what is the cow opening then? Well, the cow is obtained by e3 with the ideas of d3, and then you want to place the knight like that. Why and what for? I'm not so sure. You can ask the creator of this opening, Anna Kramling, famous YouTuber, what was on her mind, because I believe that when we obtain the setup that we wanted, we lack space in the center, we lack the development, the quality development, because okay, knights are developed, but so what? They cannot move basically anywhere. The bishops are kind of stuck. Opponent can basically play even like a5, a4, or h5, h4, plenty of moves, like basically any move that is not blundering a material is making the black's position better and better. So like, yeah, I don't know. If you remember the Hippo, in Hippo we had at least the fianchettoed bishops. And in that way we were able to finish development easier, faster, better, and the knights here are actually much more helpful in terms of the fight of for the center. In here they are not so much helpful. So yeah, terrible opening overall. I just put it for the memes, you know, and it has nothing to offer for real. Is it fun? Maybe twice. For the third time when you play it, it's like your friend is not laughing anymore. Your position is so bad that you are not laughing anymore. Just because the other twos are such bad gambits, and because I like Anna's content, I will put it just below the Alien's gambit. Let's agree to it. And then we go into the other meme opening, which will be the Bonk Cloud, right? You may know it from the Hikaru's games mostly. Here it is. I believe he did a speedrun also on this one. What can I tell you guys? I mean, if you have the thematic tournament, or if you want to play the meme tournament with the friends, like, okay. But if you want to, let's say, I don't know, train the games, the positions without the castling rights, I believe you can set up the chess variation in which castling will not be allowed. There is such a possibility on chess.com please do that. Just play a normal game without castling rights, not the bonk cloud. So that's that. As the meme, I like it more than the cow. I believe in the chess community there were much more laughs about it than the cow. So overall, I would rate it higher, but as you can tell, in terms of the gambits, it's like very, very bad one. But let's put it here. And the last one of all of the memes stuff, we have the Great Wall, and that's why the arrows are here, because I am using the same chapter for those meme gambits to not waste any more, leeches space for it. And yeah, this is basically what it is. I'm not sure if it's even called like that, but as a meme, once more, with my friends, my group of friends, we played that against each other. Sometimes with a good result, sometimes not. And outside of those three memes openings, I would say that this is the best one objectively, and practically maybe too. In terms of fun, I had a lot of fun with it. So out of all those three, obviously all of those three are in the nothing to offer section, but I will rate it as the highest one. Let's agree to it. The meme part and section is behind us. We can now focus on the real stuff once more. So few more minutes of your focus, guys. We are going into the Blackmar-Diemer gambit. This is actually the one I like, and I know for a fact that it allowed one of my friends to win the Polish Junior Championship back in 2009, so quite a long time ago. The point is that in here we can either obtain it after d4, d5, or actually in the Scandinavian. So comparing this one to Tennison, like play this one. If you really have to do the gambit against Scandinavian of any kind, do that. So what is it? What is the Blackmar-Diemer gambit? The point of it is that by taking the pawn, opponent will be opening up this diagonal for good, let's say, and not only that, we can try to get the pawn back, and if opponent tries to defend it as he would normally do, we can now play f3 with the idea that we are getting such position in which we are getting like kind of flipped Smith-Morra gambit, right? Because instead of sacrificing C and D pawns for opening C and D files, we are sacrificing E and F pawns for opening E and F files. What's the positive about it? What's the bad thing about it? Positive thing about it is that f5 being opened means that we will be hitting directly the opponent's king. At the same time though, it means that our king will be weaker, right? Not only that, it might be a little bit harder for us in this specific variation to play dynamically than in the Smith-Morra gambit, but nevertheless it offers some potential. If opponent plays it passively, we can try to simply develop the pieces like that. So yeah, bishop will be having a happy life here or there depending on the opponent's choices. So overall, I would say that it's a real weapon, especially in the hands of advanced player that knows his stuff and likes this gambits a lot. Not sure if it would work nowadays. It worked 16 years ago, but in the classicals, but in the shorter time controls, I feel like it's a perfectly good choice. And since our surprise weapon, which I felt like will be the most filled one at the beginning, is have only 3 choices there, I will happily put the Blackmar-Diemer gambit into that section. Let's do it there. I think that's fair. Okay, and now we are going into the Gibbins-Weidenhagen gambit. After d4, we are now switching to the knight f6 territory. We can play g4, not e4, because it would be overextending with the gambit approach. The knight can take the pawn, go back, not that great upside for us, but g4 pawn we can sacrifice. We can sacrifice it. If opponent accepts it, we can play e4, hitting the knight. So yeah, kind of similar to the wing gambit. So then we sacrifice the b pawn in order to get the center. Now we sacrifice the g pawn. Is it playable though on the higher level? I very much doubt it. Overall, for the fun name and for the interesting idea, I will put it as the, let's say, single trick section, but not any higher than that. And to be honest, I prefer Tennison gambit to it. So yeah, let's have it there. All right, and now we are entering the territory of the Duchess. Because when the f5 pawn is on the board, once more we have this mirror side thing with the Sicilian, because in here we have d4 f5, in Sicilian it's e4 c5, so if you put the mirror in between the middle of the board, it's actually kind of the same. And the point is that if against the Sicilian we had the Smith-Morra gambit and wing gambit, in here we will have the Staunton gambit and Krejcik gambit. Two of the gambits, funny named and actually objectively better than the one that we've seen just a second ago, because in here if the g4 pawn is sacrificed, fg e4 will allow us to grab more space in the center. Not only that, we can play h3. I guess it reminds me a little bit about the Benko gambit. That aside, I feel like this opening objectively is fine. It has a tremendous surprise factor to it. So I would say that the Krejcik gambit is really a thing to consider. Same thing applies to the Staunton gambit. I believe like objectively it's even a little bit better and easier to navigate. Comparing Krejcik to Staunton, I believe that both are comparable. Objectively maybe even Staunton is better. However, because the Krejcik is, I believe, much less known, I will put Staunton somewhere around here. Wait, alright. And then Krejcik I will put there. Alright, let's do it that way. One more, guys, one more to go. The Lisitsyn gambit. Very similar one, however not after d4 but after knight to f3. Still, if f5 is played, we can play e4 with similar attempt of sacrificing a pawn thanks to the fact that the f pawn was pushed. And this gambit is giving vibes of the Tennison gambit once more, right? But with Tennison, the f pawn was there, the d pawn was not. In here, it's maybe even a better option for white than the Tennison. That's also due to the fact that whenever the d5 pawn is pushed or the knight to f6, we can simply play d3. And the idea is that now we can retake the pawn, and this diagonal is very weak. After d5, basically the same thing applies, kind of, because h6 now is not playable since queen h5 is there and we are winning. So overall, I would say that black has to be really cautious about it. In here, the main move is queen d6, and I would not even find it, I guess, in the game. Maybe if it was classical. But the point is that whenever you know that opponent is playing Dutch, and for example, he wants to set up the stone wall and have the most boring position there exists, you can play the Lisitsyn gambit or any of the other gambits against the Dutch we just covered and claim quite a nice position in quite a nice gambit and all that stuff. This gambit I like a lot. I really like a lot. To be honest, I like it more than the Krejcik, which is also g4 in the Dutch, more than the Blackmar-Diemer, which is e4 but in the d4 continuation. So I would have to put it higher, but I don't want to have all of those four similar possibilities next to each other, so I will have to put it somewhere higher. And since real openings category is so well filled, I will put it into the legendary. Not sure why, but I feel like it's such a powerful weapon, such a nice weapon that let's just do it. Maybe you will have some problems about it, then great, you will be commenting and you will be boosting my algorithm. That's something I can live with. Okay guys, so that's my tier list. I hope you liked it and enjoy it. If that's the case, please remember to leave a like under this video and subscribe to the channel. And this should be the end of the tier list in terms of the openings. Maybe in the future I will be doing the tier lists of any other chess related topic. We'll see. As of now, thank you all for watching and stay on my channel for the few more days at least, because 1 year of my channel is approaching and I promised you in the very first video on this channel that I will be publishing a video on every anniversary. So stay tuned for it. It will be published in a few days. So I will be summarizing my year and yeah, we'll see each other in a short time. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.